Hey, everybody, it's Mark Pattison. I'm back again with another great episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. And before we get into today's amazing guest, I just want to touch on once again that you can go find out what's going on at www.markpattisonnfl.com. I've got a film that the NFL is doing on my amazing journey up Mount Everest and what we did to help people like my daughter, Amelia, through Amelia's Everest in association with Higher Ground. So that's coming out on the 23rd of September, and there'll be a premiere here in Sun Valley. There'll be more about that on my website. Also, of course, this is a great spot too, to go and check out other amazing podcasts of incredible people doing just unbelievable things, again, like my guest today, but you can check that out again at www.markpattisonnfl.com. And I appreciate any ratings and review from anybody out there. It helps with the popularity of the show. It's not about me being popular. It's about elevating these incredible stories because we all need a lift at the end of the day. And that's that. So let's get into our guest today. His name is Jeremey Poincenot. Jeremey, how you doing?
I'm well, Mark. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a good thing I studied a little French in high school that I could actually pronounce that way. But this inside secret is that you gave me the phonetically how to make sure I didn't hack that up. But here we are. You're in San Diego. I'm in Sun Valley, Idaho. And your story is really incredible. And I'm just going to break the ice. And I'm sitting here talking to you. And your story is really amazing. We had another common friend that you're on his podcast. I said, I've got to have this guy on. It's so remarkable. But you became blind at the age of 19. And I was going through and I was researching some of this. And you've got this hereditary optic neuropathy that you came down with. And hardly anybody gets it. It's only 100 people a year, which is still a lot. But it just blew me away. Is this from generation to generation? Is this something in your family tree? Just bring us up to speed on you're going to college, everything is going great, and then all of a sudden your world falls apart.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy, right? I started, I'm in San Diego, like you said. I went to San Diego State University, was gaining my independence, absolutely loving life. And during my sophomore year, when I was 19 years old, all of a sudden things started to get blurry. And I thought I just needed glasses or contacts, but in a matter of months, it went from perfect 20/20 vision where everything was normal. I was driving, everything was fine, to where it is today. I'm now legally blind with no central vision and lost complete central vision in a matter of months. So because of it, I'm no longer able to read without assistive technology or extreme magnification. I'm no longer able to drive, and I'm no longer able to distinguish faces. Those are kind of like the three marquee things I say that I'm no longer able to do because of this. But like you said, it is hereditary. It's a mitochondrial disorder passed down on the mother's side. Mm-hmm. So my mom passed it down to myself, sister, and brother, and we can go up and down the maternal bloodline and know who carries it. But you can carry this disorder your whole life and not lose sight from it, which is kind of interesting. And I'm the first person in my family to be diagnosed with it. So we didn't know we had it or carried it until I lost my sight.
And is there any cure, going forward right now?
No, unfortunately. When I lost my sight, 21st century, I'm like, just tell me what I need, doc. And let me get back to my normal life at school. And they're like, well, unfortunately, there is no treatment. There is no cure. You're going to be legally blind the rest of your life. And that's pretty tough to take at 19. They're progressing on treatments, hopefully finding something, and research is coming along, but there isn't anything currently that is like a quality treatment to prevent this from happening, unfortunately.
And you're 29 years old now? Is that right?
I'm 31. Yeah, I'm
31.
31. It's been 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been dealing with this for a long time. So, there's a lot to peel back right now. And one of the things that's really amazing about your story is like what you're doing today. And we'll get into that. But so you're 19. I'm trying to go back when I was 19, knucklehead at the University of Washington. I was playing football and I was in a fraternity. You're in a fraternity. You're going to class. You're seeing pretty girls. I mean, you're doing all the things.
Top of the world.
Yeah, you're on top of the world. And it's like you said, you're gaining your independence. I like the way you put that. And so what is this like when either the news has come or you are under the reality that this is all downhill and there's no cure, and this is, it's a one-way ticket, right? I mean, how do you mentally go through that?
I think you go through the 5 stages of grief, which I wasn't familiar with when I first lost my sight. Maybe I learned about it in sight class, but memorized it, took an exam, and then forgot about it, as we tend to do in school. But the 5 stages of grief are really real, and they were really real for me during this time. So it starts with denial. I was absolutely in denial. I thought I was living a nightmare. I was going to wake up and things are going to go back to normal. Then the next step is anger. I was mad. When I realized that this was reality, I was mad. I was mad at the world. I was mad at really the whole situation. I didn't understand that it could happen. Then I went to the 3rd stage, which is bargaining. I pleaded with anyone and everyone. I pleaded to the world, like, whatever I need to do to change things, to go back to the way they were, I'll do it. I don't just say it and I'll do it. Then I went into the 4th stage, which I think is very real, and we don't talk about it enough, and that's depression. I was absolutely depressed for a long period of time. I mean, you stripped away my central vision. I'm now legally blind at 19. I was on top of the world. Now I'm not. I was depressed. And then I finally reached the 5th and final stage, and that's acceptance. And research says it takes on average 2 years to go from a traumatic life experience to reaching acceptance. And then it's not perfectly linear, right? I don't go denial, anger, bargaining, depression. I've reached acceptance and I never, I wish it was that way. But of course, I still have those depressed days. I still have those denial days. It's natural, but I think you kind of have to go through those stages to finally reach acceptance. And that's kind of what I went through.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We all go through bad patches, and I had mine, and I've had several bad patches, and one of mine happened 10 years ago, and people listen to this podcast are aware of that. But, it was through, it took me probably 3 years of a lot of those things. I never thought about the 5 stages of grief, when you're going through, but I'm sure I hit a lot of those that you just talked about. And for me, I really found my peace again in nature. And like I said before, the opening, I'm here in Sun Valley, and just being amongst the trees and not all the congestion of everything that was going on in California and Los Angeles in particular really helped me get clarity. So now you're at some point in time, you got to pick yourself up, right? And say, okay, it is what it is, and I'm going to make something of my life. It just so happened that you were a pretty doggone good golfer. And there's going to be a whole nother can of worms that we're going to get into about, all these achievements you've done in the golfing world. But where does the idea come from? I'm blind, I'm down, I'm depressed, where's my life going? I can't drive, all these small things that you take, I can't imagine what it's like on the computer at first or texting. And, I'm sure you have answers for all this, but when it's all new. And that's very frustrating to you. And where did you see like the light, so to speak, at the end of the tunnel where you thought about golfing as a way to liberate you from this place that you were in?
Yeah. You hit it on the head in that like everything was new and everything was, like you said, frustrating and annoying and just challenging, that things that were easy to do just months before are now taking a lot more time and are a lot more difficult, which is really tough on the psyche. When it comes to golf, I thought the game of golf for me was over when I lost my sight. Golf's it's a hard game and it's such a visual sport. So I thought I would never be able to play the game again. And none of it is to me, it's actually my mom. My mom found the United States Blind Golf Association, the USBGA, told me about it, said there are tournaments all over the world. And I thought she was joking. I thought it was a joke, and she made me laugh. Hey, during a time when it was hard for me to laugh, she got me to laugh. And there is such thing as blind golf, and there's tournaments all over the world. And at first I was very reluctant to wanting to try it because I had an expectation level of how I could play when I could see, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I was very opposed to the idea at first and was at arm's length from it. But after a period of time, I said, you know what, let's give it a go. And that's kind of how it all started.
So when you go and you golf out there, how many people are in the field, right?
Yeah, it differs depending on tournament.
Yeah, I get that, but it just like I've never heard of this. Not that that means
Right.
anything, but
Right.
like we're like it sounds like you didn't even hear about it, right? So,
Oh yeah.
where did this game support? How long has it been around? And generally speaking, how many participants enter these tournaments?
Yeah, so the United States Blind Golf Association, we're going to have our 75th national championship this year, which is pretty crazy. It's been around for a long period of time. The International Blind Golf Association has gotten funding, has been around, I want to say, since 99. And so that's kind of helped grow the game globally. At a national championship, you probably got 35, 40 competitors in it. At a world championship, you got kind of the best of the best, and you got about 60 competing in that tournament. And the Worlds takes place every other year in a different place. The Nationals takes place every year in the U.S. at a different place. And yeah, it's pretty impressive to see the quality of golf out there. And then there's 3 different sight categories. There are B3s. So we all know 20/20 is perfect vision. Mm-hmm. There's the B3 sight category, which has better sight than I do, which is worse than 2200, which is legally blind, to 2600. I'm a B2, which is worse than 2600, but not totally blind. And then you have the B1s who are totally blind. They can't see a thing. And there's those 3 sight categories. I'm trying to win the B2 sight category. I'm not really competing against the B1s or the B3s.
Yeah. And to that point, you have won multiple times the championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've won a couple.
Yeah, a number of them. I mean, it's not just a fluke. And so I think, this blew me away, and this pisses me off just a little bit because I'm a 14 point whatever handicap, and I can see everything. And you're, I think, a 9, which is, if you're a 9, you're a good stick. I mean,
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's, I've been around golf long enough to know, it's your short game and this and that, but it's just, so much about it when you get down is the touch and the feel and all that kind of stuff. So I want you to line me up on and tell the audience like how this actually works. So so you're on, let's just go to the first hole of one of these championships or any golf course, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, there's directional, there's when you get down midway in the fairway, there's yardage and all that kind of stuff. I know your dad has been a big integral part of your success. Tell me more about just walk us through how all this works.
Yeah. So golf is an individual sport. Blind golf is a team sport. You can't just drop me off at the local golf course and say, have fun, Jeremy. I'll pick you up in 4 or 5 hours. I would have no idea what I was doing. But yeah, like you said, my dad is my guide. He's my guide in all competitive rounds of blind golf that we play in. So he's my teammate. We do it together. So when we get to the first tee, we'll discuss the hole. How long is it? It's a par 4. He'll tell me the yardage. Then we'll kind of discuss what club do we want to hit off of the tee. If it's open, we'll hit a driver, but a lot of times the courses will be short for blind golf tournaments. So we don't have to pull the driver, and we'll kind of play strategically. Do we want to hit a hybrid to ensure we're in the fairway? Do we want to hit, a stinger 4-iron, something like that? And we kind of have that discussion, commit to a club. And then let's just say we're hitting the hybrid, I pull the hybrid out. I do a practice swing. My dad points in the direction we want to hit the shot. I try to envision where he's pointing. I have no idea where he's pointing, but it's just part of the routine, and we do what we can. I step over the ball, and from behind, he looks at my feet and says, go a little more right, a little more left. Okay, you're good. I hit the shot, and we do that the whole way around the course, and we shoot some decent scores.
So when you get to the green, right? Mm-hmm. How are you lining up the hole to where you are? Obviously, there's undulation. There's just, are you on the rough? Are you on the green? That type of thing. But actually getting the ball in the hole, how does that play? Is it the same thing that you just described?
It's a little different. So what I described is what we would do for all full shots. So if we're going to, I'll break it down quickly. If I'm doing a chip shot from the rough, what I'll do is I'll have my dad stand in between me and the hole on the line we want to chip it on, because I might not see the flag, but I can see him. So we kind of go, okay, maybe it's 20 yards to the flag, and I want to land it 10 yards in front of me, and my dad's standing at that 10-yard mark. So I'm just literally focusing on him and lining up to him. And I can't see him perfectly, but I got a general direction where if it lands 3 feet left of him, 3 feet right of him, 3 feet long, 3 feet short, it's going to roll out and be decent. So that's what we do for the chip shots. And then when it comes to putting, I'll walk it off. I'll pace it off from the ball to the hole. So let's just say I pace it off and it's 10 paces. Well, one pace is about a yard. So it's about 10 paces. That's 30 feet, right? 10 yards, 30 feet. So I pace it off and then I'll come back to my dad and say, hey, it feels like it's going uphill. And with my feet, I feel it going left, right to left. What do you think? And he's looking at it from behind and using his eyes. And he says, yeah, I definitely see the undulation going uphill. And I agree. I'd see it going maybe a foot to the left. So I'll say, okay, we want to put it 1 foot out of the hole to the right. And he says, yeah. And then I say, okay, it's 10 paces, but it's uphill. What do you want me to play it? And we'll say, based on this slope, I'd like you to play it 12. So for me, instead of a 30-foot putt, I'm playing it like it's a 36-foot putt. So I'm doing practice strokes as if it's a 36-foot putt. I step over it and my dad from behind looks at the line on my putter, tells me to go right, go left, and we stroke it.
So I want to also describe the kind of what you're actually looking at. Because again, I'm looking at you on screen. Everybody else that's listening to this podcast, of course, is listening. They're not seeing you.
Right.
And you look, I don't even know what a blind person looks. I mean, I don't want to generalize around it, but you don't look like a blind person, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So when I was on Mount Everest recently, right? This is now 2 or 3 months ago. I summited the 23rd of May. And on summit day, it's 12:30 in the morning. I get outside of my tent and we had a very strong 45 to 50 mile per hour wind blowing. And all these little small ice particles just like seared my left eye. And Unreal. I became snowblind in my left eye. So I had my right vision, didn't have my left, but my depth perception and everything else. And it was like a very opaque vision. I couldn't see necessarily up or down or around, but the whole thing. So I could see it was light out during the day as the day turned from night to morning time and the sun rose and everything. But the way that you were describing it is kind of the same thing with the exception of you can see on the peripheral, right? So if somebody's standing there, you can see like their shoes, but you just can't see anything. So and that's, I think, what you're describing is what the sensation is, what the reality is for you when you live your day-to-day life.
Yeah. I'd say, like, for the listeners out there, put your hands, one hand on top of the other, put them right in front of your face and look around the room you're in with your hands directly in front of your face like that. That's what my sight's like all the time. And it's comparable to a donut, let's say. I have the donut part. I have the top, the sides, the bottom. I have complete peripheral vision. I'm missing a huge donut hole in the middle. That's completely blurred out. Like you said, it's opaque. I can't see anything through it. And it's just completely blurred out.
Crazy. Your dad sounds like just an incredible man, incredible human being. What has that relationship been like for you in terms of your dad, almost a friend, a mentor, and an inspiration? What has that meant for you?
It's meant the world to me. I'm lucky to have such a great family, such a great support system. And my dad and I were really good friends growing up. I played golf with him when I was fully sighted from when I was 12 till I was 17 until I went off to college. Every Sunday we had a game together. And, some of my friends, their dad was, I don't know, this father figure that you couldn't, I don't know how to describe it, but my dad was someone who we were buddies, we were friends, we would crack jokes with each other. But there was always that respect level too. And it's pretty cool that growing up, we would each play our own golf ball in a match. And now when we're just playing for fun, we'll play our own ball on the weekend. But for these tournaments, we're both focused on my ball and we get around like that. So it's really cool to have the dynamic of having my dad be a part of every tournament. When we win and I get a, golfer champion trophy, he gets a guide champion trophy. And it's really cool to share that bond and that experience with him. On the, opposite side of it, there's things that he says on the golf course that I take a lot differently than if you said the exact same wording to me. But I think we can all probably relate to that when it comes to, fatherly figure or fathers saying things to us. We take them a lot differently than anyone else.
So you're at 31 years old today. What is your life like today? I'm talking about day to day. I'm talking about, your relationships. I'm talking about your occupation? I'm talking about your golfing, things like that. Like give me an idea what your life looks like today.
Yeah. So I'm married. I have an incredible wife who we started dating probably 9 months after I lost my sight, which is pretty surreal. Like, she was a big part of the process of helping me get through to acceptance. Like, having someone who believed in me, who could love me when I, to be honest, didn't love myself. I thought I was inferior to everyone else, and she saw the best in me. And we've been together for over 10 years and married now over 3 years. We have a 9-month-old son, and it's really cool to, like, just discussing the father-son bond my dad and I have, to now have a son of our own, is really cool to have that. I mean, it's just, it's a surreal feeling. So it's amazing to be married and have such an incredible wife, to have such an incredible son. And then I golf as often as I can to work on my game and improve at the craft. But as a profession, I'm an inspirational speaker, and I travel the country and the world really sharing my story, but making it relatable to the audience. And my main key takeaway that I want people to get from my presentation is that independence is good, but interdependence is great. And like I said earlier, I was gaining my independence as a 19-year-old sophomore in college. I lost my sight, and I was therefore dependent. And I was fearful I was going to be dependent on others the rest of my life. I slowly regained my independence as a legally blind individual. And from that, started to see the power in interdependence. I'm a lot more comfortable now asking others for help than I was when I was 19 years old and fully sighted. And it's funny how in society we put so much, we're so fearful of asking others for help, and we're afraid of what people might think of us. And at the end of the day, a majority of people want to help others. That's what we're here on this planet for. And I'm lucky that I've learned at a young age that it's okay to ask others for help, and I'm all about it.
That's a big lesson for me too. It's interesting that you said that, because I was bullheaded about ever asking anybody for help. And, like, everybody's waiting on the sideline, wanting to help you get back in the game of life, and whatever struggle you're going through. I know as you were talking about some of the things that they were taking away from you, like driving. My daughter, Amelia, she's 22 years old now, goes to the University of Arizona, and she's never driven, and she can't drive because of epilepsy. And we think we are very hopeful that, she's rounding third base and that she's going to be better. But on the flip side of that, where we live in today's society, technology, to be able to go to your phone and push a button and have a car, pick you up in 15 minutes in front of your house and take you to a restaurant or some other place. It's really amazing that there's all these opportunities that people that couldn't do these things, like my daughter or perhaps you years ago, now can tap into these things that make life, you can punch a button on a phone and have, Thai food dropped off at your house. Right. So
right.
You don't have to do all the heavy lifting. And at the same time, in those cases, you're not necessarily asking for help, because of technology allows you not to have to go to Costco, because you can go to Amazon. Right. So It's just these different, interesting things that while technology for some people may be seen as a negative thing because people are on their phone too much, on the other side, it can be very beneficial for people who have challenges on just trying to get from point A to point B.
Absolutely. Technology has done wonders for my life. Since losing my sight, I'm able to use my MacBook laptop to zoom in and out and somewhat see things. My iPhone is able to use VoiceOver to have things read to me. When I lost my sight, Uber and Lyft didn't exist. So I had to call a cab or find ways to ask people or fraternity brothers or friends for rides, which is not as easy as just pushing a button and someone's taking you from point A to point B. So technology and all these things and how we're progressing with it is helping folks like myself and helping folks like your daughter, Amelia.
Let's talk about Cure, which is your nonprofit that you are fundraising for. Your goal is to raise, I think, at least $1 million. And so tell us more about that.
Yeah. So my roommate at the time I lost my sight, Mark, he and I were talking, and we ended up creating a fundraising bike ride to help raise money and awareness to find a cure for LHON, the disorder that caused me to lose my sight. And the Cure Ride is an acronym, stands for Cycling Under Reduced Eyesight. It's a 4-day bike ride from Santa Barbara, California to San Diego. It's 240 miles. It's a tight-knit group of my closest friends and fraternity brothers. About 20 to 25 of us do it every year. And we've raised over $350,000 for LH1 research so far. We haven't done the ride due to COVID the last few years, but it's something that, and you might be thinking, how do I get on a bike? Yeah, I'm on the back of a tandem bike. So those cool two-person bikes, I'm on the back. I'm the little engine that could, and absolutely do no steering. And, I'm freaked out while we're going really fast down hills and I have no brakes. All my trust is in the guy in front. So that's pretty fun. And my buddy, Mark, he's the guy who rides on the front of the tandem with me. So it's just, selflessly, it's a really cool experience to raise money and awareness. Selfishly, it's a really fun thing to do every year with a great group of guys to help raise funds for this disorder.
Well, it's the community, and your buddies, want to help you out. And I've got amazing friends like that too, that have been there every step of the way. And when you need it, they step up, and that's the bottom line. And, it's not one of those things where at 31, you're trying to solve the world at 32. Right. This is kind of a lifelong thing for you. And, especially on a bike, this can keep going forever. You can back it up and go to San Francisco and ride all the way down to San Diego, right? Yeah. A little bit. So you can make that race whatever you want to make it in the big picture. But at the end of the day, you're out there trying to help people.
100%. Mark and I actually did in 2019 a ride San Francisco to San Diego, 630 miles on the tandem, which in 7 days was brutal, but it was awesome to share with him. And I think, to touch on what you said, I think that's the part of interdependence, right? What's interesting is when we need to ask others for help, we're extremely fearful of it. Mm-hmm. But when someone asks for our help, we step up and we're ready. We're ready for it. We're ready to help. And when someone asks for my help, I feel good. But when we feel like, I need to ask someone for their help, we think of all the reasons why we shouldn't do it. And I think that's such an interesting paradox. And if we put ourselves in other people's shoes, rather than thinking about it from our perspective, think about it from someone else's perspective. How are they going to feel when we ask for their help? Are they going to feel good? Are they going to feel like they're worthy of stepping up to helping for us? It's really beneficial. So I think we need to change our perspective on how we view asking for help.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think also at the end of the day, sometimes, these subjects like this come up and they need to be told, and they need to have guys like you and me and others say, it's totally cool to ask for help. Yeah. And they need to hear that message. And too often people have their head in the sand. They're not reading or reaching out and listening to others, what they can say. So anybody listening, you need help, man, reach out and ask your buddy or somebody that can help you get over whatever you might be going through, because we all need it. We all go through it. 100%. Hence the name, Finding Your Summit, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media, Instagram, my name, Jeremey Poincenot. It's 9-letter last name, French. It's not easy, but I'm on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, my website, jeremeypoincenot.com. I'm really everywhere. I'm Twitter on that, but you can find me any of those places, and I'm pretty responsive. So if you reach out, I'll probably respond. Yeah,
you do respond because you responded to me, so you passed the test.
There we go. Yeah, I walk the walk.
Yeah, you walk the walk. No, that's awesome. Hey, listen. So appreciate you coming on. This is one of the reasons why I keep doing these podcasts, is because they keep lifting me up, and, people are asking me now what's next, and I'm trying to figure that out. And I do have a couple of things on the what next, but I constantly need to be reminded about my place in life of, there's always somebody who maybe doesn't have it quite as good as whatever I have, even though I have some days or down days, like, where am I going to go from here? Sure. And inspirations like you to say, look, we all need help. We need to get picked up. It's pretty cool. So congrats on your success in the world of golf. I'm still a little pissy that you're like 8 points ahead of me in the handicap, but I'm going to work on my game, and then maybe we can play each other someday. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
All right. There he is, the one and only Jeremey. Thank you so much. Hey, and thank you so much for listening to the Find Your Summit podcast. We are so glad to have you along for this journey.
And if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, share it on iTunes, spread it to the planet. We're looking to broadcast this to every person that is out there because, as you know, everybody has their own summit that they're going after. Okay, if you're looking to follow my journey, you can find that through my social links on markpattisonnfl.com. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, Pattison, P-A-T-T-I-S-O-N, NFL.com. So, until the next podcast, just remember, clear eyes, full hearts, and remember, it takes a little more to make a champion, so make it happen. Thank you. Bye.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.